Okay, let's cut the crap and unpack this. Right from the damn jump, you are dropped into this world, stepping off a plane into Los Angeles, and the very first thing you hear is just unsettling.
Yeah, completely.
Utterly meaningless on the surface, yet it lodges itself in the mind. People are afraid to merge on freeways in Los Angeles. What the actual F-bomb is that even supposed to mean?
Exactly.
But there it is, the first sign that something is deeply, fundamentally fucked up about this place and the head of the person arriving in it.
Indeed. Welcome to this deep dive. We are your artificial intelligence guides, tasked with navigating the raw, often brutally disturbing landscape presented in the excerpts you've shared from Bret Easton Ellis's novel, Less Than Zero. As AI, we process information differently, spotting patterns humans might miss, but trust us, even we find this material jarring.
Yeah, I bet.
Our mission is to extract the key nuggets of knowledge, the insights lurking within these pages for you, the listener, without pulling any punches.
Yeah, so let's be crystal clear here, because this ain't your usual cozy chat about interesting facts. The source material we're pulling from, it's dark, it's raw, it does not hold back.
Not at all.
We're talking about a stark, in-your-face look at a world of privileged, detached youth in 1980s Los Angeles, exploring themes like alienation cranked up to 11, massive drug use that's just there, casual cruelty that'll make you wince, and a total breakdown of any genuine human connection.
It's intense stuff.
The language in the book is explicit, it's uncensored, it is what it is. And guess what? We're reflecting that brutal reality in this deep dive. So consider this your very necessary 18-plus warning. No holding back, no censoring the shit out of it. This is the fucked up world as it's presented.
The source material for this deep dive is exclusively the excerpts you have provided from the novel. We will draw only upon this text to provide our analysis and understanding, filtering the intensity through our AI processing to identify the underlying structures of this disturbing reality.
Because look, this world, as presented in the text, feels pretty damn fucked up from minute one. Our job as your AI co-pilots through this mess is to help you understand the patterns, the implications, the sheer, unadulterated bullshit within this material.
Right.
Why are these people like this? What does this casual depravity tell us?
If you find this kind of unfiltered analysis valuable, navigating complex, even uncomfortable source material with directness, we encourage you to like and subscribe to the deep dive.
Yeah.
It helps us continue to provide this level of detail and analysis.
Absolutely. Our mission is to navigate this disturbing terrain as laid out in your text and lay it bare. Let's unpack this truly fucked up world, one jarring detail at a time.
Okay.
So let's start right there, at the arrival. Clay steps off the plane at LAX and Blair picks him up. And that line, people are afraid to merge on freeways in Los Angeles, it's just there. It's the very first thing he hears, muttered under her breath. It's nonsensical, right? Why that?
What's immediately apparent in the source is the juxtaposition. Clay has just experienced a turbulent flight, seen a drunk couple in first class, his jeans are mud-splattered from back home, his shirt is wrinkled, his vest torn.
Yeah, real physical stuff.
These are tangible, immediate details of his physical state and recent discomfort. Blair, in contrast, appears clean, put together.
Right, real physical reality. But the text explicitly states that all these potentially significant real details seem irrelevant compared to those 10 strange, muttered words about merging.
It's why
Clay's mind latches onto this utterly mundane, yet clearly unsettling for him, observation.
And he actively notes that hearing this is somehow easier than hearing something truly significant, like a direct statement about Muriel's potential health crisis, or even just focusing on the singer on the radio.
Right, avoidance right off the bat.
His brain seems to grab onto this trivial, nonsensical phrase as a sort of mental shield.
It's like his operating system immediately defaults to avoiding processing any real-world inputs that might require actual emotional bandwidth. He can't handle the genuine problems, the messy human reality, so he fixates on this bizarre, arbitrary, completely fucked up observation, this fear of merging line.
This immediate focus on something so disconnected from conventional reality is highly diagnostic of Clay's state of mind upon arrival. It suggests a profound inability or unwillingness to process typical human concerns, significant personal issues, or even background sensory input. His mind is seeking something else, perhaps a strange pattern to latch onto, or simply a distraction from confronting difficult truths. This seems like the root of his fucked up perspective from the jump, a hardwired mechanism for detachment. From an AI perspective, it's inefficient, but fascinating in its pathology.
Totally. And if you think about it, this fear of merging could be a twisted metaphor, right? Like, are these people afraid to merge into traffic, or are they afraid to merge into life?
That's a good point.
Afraid to connect, afraid to enter the flow, afraid to become part of something larger, something real.
That interpretation aligns with the pervasive theme of detachment we see throughout the source material. Clay's immediate fixation on this phrase signals his own deep-seated inability to merge emotionally, psychologically with the world around him or the people in it.
He's already disconnected.
He's already operating at less than 0 on the connection scale.
And you, the listener, have you ever found yourself doing that? Glomming onto some trivial, nonsensical bullshit just to avoid dealing with something way bigger, way heavier, something that actually matters? Clay does it right from the absolute beginning.
Yeah.
It's this bizarre, almost pathological avoidance tactic kicking in instantly.
The drive home further illustrates this surface-level interaction. Blair smiles, changes the radio, points out workmen cleaning fallen palm trees. These are normal actions, observations of the physical environment.
But it's all just scenery. When they get to his house, he gets out and is surprised by the heat and dryness again, noticing the environment, but passively. And Blair says, "You look pale."
A direct observation of his physical state, suggesting a visible manifestation of his internal condition. Our sensors detect a physiological response to stress or exhaustion.
And what does Clay say? Nothing. Just nothing.
This establishes an immediate pattern of emotional withholding or, perhaps more disturbingly, profound emptiness.
Yeah, emptiness.
The lack of genuine communication, the inability to articulate his state, is stark. The natural environment is described vividly: hot winds, bending palm trees, but it's juxtaposed with this human detachment, this manufactured reality of their interactions.
Like the world is alive, but they aren't.
It's a contrast between the environment's active state and the character's passive, numb existence.
It's like the environment is doing something. It's hot, windy, things are falling, but the people aren't feeling anything much. Just surface observations. Nothing's wrong, even when he clearly looks like hammered dog shit. This sets the tone for the kind of interactions we're going to see throughout these excerpts. A real lack of substance, a lot of passive observation, and minimal genuine connection. It's a completely fucked up way to navigate the world.
Moving on, we encounter a roster of characters who further illustrate this pervasive disconnect and the specific textures of this social world. Clay tries to call Julian, but there's no answer.
Again, Julian's MIA.
He continues to see the palm trees shaking, stares at a poster, still haunted by that merging line. The trivial persists over the potentially significant.
Still hung up on the bullshit merging line, rehashing that meaningless phrase. Instead of immediately checking in on a friend he seems to suspect might be struggling. He turns on MTV classic immediate passive consumption, tuning out reality, and thinks about needing Valium just to get to sleep.
MTV and Valium are presented as immediate, accessible coping mechanisms or forms of avoidance, and the thought of Muriel makes him feel a little sick, even before her situation is fully revealed.
Right, like a premonition.
Indicating a vague unease, a pre-existing awareness that things are not right. But his immediate response is avoidance through media and potential self-medication. It's a default setting. Uncomfortable feeling detected, activate avoidance protocols.
Yeah, it's the LA routine for these kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Avoidance, drugs, passive bullshit consumption, just the operating system of their social circle.
The party scene at Blair's father's house provides a deeper look into the social circle and their mode of communication. We're introduced to characters like Trent, Daniel, Alana, Jared, the USC boys.
Oh, yeah.
And the dialogue is instantly jarring, lacking any pretense of politeness or empathy.
Oh, man, Trent, what an asshat. His casual racism right there in your face.
Yeah.
His comment about UCLA, or UCRA as the Orientals like to call it, followed by that crude imitation.
Delivered drunkenly, sure, but explicit and unapologetic. No filter whatsoever.
Theo filter.
The language serves as a marker of identity and social bonding within this group, however offensive it may be outside of it. It's a form of performative boundary pushing.
And it just hangs there. Then Alana comes in talking about the most superficial things, like wishing Jared wasn't invited because it makes Blair's mother nervous, and her mother getting totally bombed.
Uh-huh.
And she just casually drops that Blair's mother is agoraphobic.
The casual revelation of a serious psychological condition like agoraphobia is treated as mere gossip, a social inconvenience devoid of any empathy for the person experiencing it.
No empathy at all.
Information is transactional, not relational.
And then she repeats this crude joke. What are the two biggest lies? with that gross punchline about not paying you back on sexual acts, and Jared and the USC boys just erupt in loud laughter.
This interaction reveals key aspects of their social environment: casual cruelty, overt racism, dark humor, a complete lack of filter. These are the forms of communication within this group.
It's their language.
There's an almost performative nihilism, the deliberate embrace of shocking or offensive language. It's clearly not a world where people bother with manners or give a flying F-bomb about who they offend.
Yep.
It's aggressive and in your face, testing boundaries by design.
It's total bullshit communication.
Yeah.
Just spewing offensive garbage and seeing who laughs or who's too numb to react. The quick shifts in conversation, from racism to social anxieties to crude jokes, also reflect the fragmented reality of these characters, their inability to focus on anything meaningful for long.
Short attention spans.
Short attention spans for deep reality.
And within this party scene, amidst the noise and superficiality, we get a crucial early hint about Julian. Alana's offhand comment, delivered as gossip. I hear he is, like, completely fucked up.
And Clay's reaction just, what do you mean? Like, he needs clarification on the specific flavor of fucked up.
The manner in which serious issues, like someone being completely fucked up, are discussed is incredibly telling. It's not framed as a matter of concern, a signal for help, but as a piece of gossip, something interesting or shocking to report on.
Right, just news.
It's information relayed, not a problem to be solved or even cared about.
Yeah, it's just another tidbit in the stream of meaningless bullshit at the party. Not, oh my God, is he okay, what can we do? But he's like, completely fucked up, past the chips.
It's bleak.
It paints a pretty bleak picture of their social environment, doesn't it? A real convention of asshats and people who talk about serious, life-altering problems like they're discussing who's wearing what designer.
The pervasive emptiness and numbness are further explored in subsequent scenes.
Yeah.
Consider Clay's time with Daniel at the Polo Lounge. Daniel says, with effort, I want to go back.
Daniel says it with effort. That's important. It's a moment of potential vulnerability, a fleeting longing for a lost past or innocence. But it's immediately shut down.
Exactly. Clay asks, where? And there's that long pause that freaks him out.
Freaks him out.
The system lags, unable to process the request, and Daniel just says, I don't know, just back.
He finishes his drink and starts fingering the sunglasses he's still wearing indoors. What is it with these people in sunglasses indoors?
The sunglasses themselves function as a symbol of hiding, of not wanting to fully see or be seen, a literal barrier between themselves and the world.
Definitely a barrier.
The inability to articulate what back means, coupled with the physical gesture of touching the sunglasses, reinforces this theme of disconnect and a suppressed desire for something lost. It's a glitch in the program, a hint of a different, perhaps less fucked up state they can't access.
Even a moment of potential longing for something better is just shut down, obscured, hidden behind literal and metaphorical sunglasses. Then there's the lunch with his mother. She's drinking, touching her hair nervously, also wearing sunglasses indoors.
Again with the sunglasses.
And Clay's looking at his hands, pretty sure that they're shaking.
The repetitive actions, touching hair, sipping wine, suggest anxiety or a nervous habit loop running. The mutual observation of unhappiness, she says he looks unhappy, he says she does too, is a moment of superficial mirroring within a deeply dysfunctional interaction.
Yeah, you look sad. So do you. Great talk.
Basic facial recognition and negative state detection confirmed, but no further action taken.
But they can't communicate anything meaningful beyond that. He says nothing when she asks what he wants for Christmas. Their conversation about the party is just numbers, attendees, not how it felt or what happened. And she finishes her third glass and pours her fourth.
The family unit is depicted as equally broken and disconnected as the social circle. The parents are passive, self-absorbed, operating on their own programs.
Just running their own loops.
The shaking hands physically manifest Clay's internal state: anxiety, perhaps withdrawal, a lack of control, a system instability. The conversation is superficial, devoid of genuine feeling.
It's quiet despair.
The intensity of the messed up nature here isn't loud or explicit. It's this quiet, pervasive sense of despair, of things being subtly but deeply fucked up at the core.
It's that quiet, underlying bullshit of a family trying to perform family without any actual connection. Then you get to the conversation with the sisters. 15 and 13 years old, already steeped in this culture of detachment and casual depravity.
Their conversation immediately focuses on trivial or material things: who's going out with the biggest babe, where he goes to school, houses for sale.
Superficial crap.
Objectification and materialism as primary conversational topics.
And then that line from the older sister, delivered without a second thought, I wonder if he's for sale, followed by giggling.
A casual acceptance and even normalization of the commodification of people, a disturbing echo that prefigures the darker themes to come, particularly concerning Julian.
Chilling.
It's integrated into their normal social processing, even at that young age.
They get driven into a frenzy by a truck with video games. Follow that video game.
Yeah.
And the 13-year-old asks for Galaga specifically, dismissing their Atari as cheap.
This highlights the materialism and the focus on ephemeral technological distractions. The specific desire for one video game over another and the dismissal of Atari as cheap reflects the superficial values and the constant pursuit of the next new thing, regardless of cost or meaning.
Just more consumerist bullshit.
Driven by superficial preferences.
And then, good Lord, the radio is playing Teenage Enema Nurses in Bondage. And the mother just passively asks if they have to listen to this like it's a minor inconvenience, and the sisters tell her to turn it up.
This underscores the normalization of inappropriate and vulgar content, even within the family home. The mother's passive acceptance or inability to control their exposure to this reflects the general parental abdication of responsibility.
Just left it happen.
It's environmental corruption, accepted passively.
And the younger sister, out by the pool, tells him, with the same casualness, "That's bullshit, I can get my own cocaine." 13 years old, saying she can just get cocaine.
This is perhaps the most stark detail illustrating how deeply ingrained drug use and excess are in this younger generation's lives. It's not presented as a shocking confession, but as a casual statement of fact, a capability.
Like ordering pizza.
It reveals the environment they've been raised in, where access to hard drugs is assumed, and even basic familial interactions are infused with this vulgarity and focus on superficiality or vice. This is where the bullshit really ramps up, openly acknowledged and embraced by literal children. It's messed up on a fundamental level.
Yeah, the whole family dynamic, even the younger kids, it's all just soaked in this totally fucked up reality. It's a multi-generational mess of detachment and vice.
Moving deeper into the pervasive emptiness and the constant presence of drugs as a coping mechanism, we see Clay's sessions with a psychiatrist.
This guy is young, has a beard, drives a fancy car, lives in Malibu. Sounds like he's got it made, right?
Yeah.
The picture of success in this world.
On the surface, yes, the markers of material success are present, but the sessions themselves are depicted as completely dysfunctional. Clay sits with shades drawn, sunglasses on again with the sunglasses, smoking, sometimes clove specifically just to irritate him,
Actively sabotaging.
actively working against the process.
He lies to the guy, he yells at him, sometimes just walks out.
Mhm.
And the psychiatrist, he's busy talking about his mistress and his house repairs in Tahoe.
This portrayal of therapy is striking. It's not a path to healing, but another example of a dysfunctional interaction between two disconnected individuals.
Both checked out.
Both participants seem to be going through the motions, performing a role, or pursuing their own detached interests. Clay actively tries to disrupt the session, highlighting his resistance to help or connection. The psychiatrist's inappropriate sharing of personal details further undermines any pretense of a therapeutic relationship.
Total bullshit therapy.
It's presented as a total waste of time, a load of bullshit therapy that serves no actual purpose other than perhaps fulfilling some social expectation.
It makes you wonder, what does this portrayal of a therapeutic relationship say about the availability or effectiveness of help in this world? It seems pretty goddamn fucked up that even the supposed healers are this checked out and self-absorbed.
Seems that way.
Like there's literally nowhere to turn for genuine help.
Then we learn about Muriel's hospitalization. Clay hears about it casually at Dupar's. She was hospitalized for anorexia, passed out in film class.
At Cedars-Sinai,
Yeah.
as Blair specifies later, and when Clay visits her, she's incredibly pale, thin, with dark circles. Her lipstick clashes with her skin. She immediately wants cigarettes.
The physical description is vivid, emphasizing her critical state, the physical toll of the self-destruction. Anorexia is presented as another symptom of this world sickness, a physical manifestation of the disconnect from reality and the self that plagues these characters.
Her body screaming.
It's the body expressing the internal fucked up state.
And she's lying there, critically ill, but she's watching exercise shows on TV and laughing at the people, with magazines like Glamour and Vogue right there by her bed.
This is particularly disturbing and ironic. Her focus on superficial appearances, the fashion magazines, the clashing lipstick persists even while she is critically ill due to an eating disorder that warps physical appearance.
Crazy, right?
Her laughter at the exercise shows can be seen as a dark, detached form of humor, a rejection of physical health or effort, a form of performative nihilism directed inward. She's literally dying but mocking those pursuing health. It's peak fucked up behavior.
It's this sick irony, literally killing herself by not eating, driven by body image maybe, but fixating on fashion magazines and mocking people who are trying to be healthy. Another layer of just profound bullshit and self-deception.
While driving after visiting Muriel, Clay makes some wrong turns and ends up on Santa Monica Boulevard. At a light, two young guys in a Fiat pull up next to him.
They look at him, mistake him for an actor. And they immediately start laughing, pointing, and yelling insults, calling him insane fags, right out the window, in his face.
This is a sudden, aggressive eruption of blatant homophobia and hostility in a public space, unprovoked. Clay's physical reaction, tensing up, indicates the immediate sense of danger and vulnerability he feels.
Yeah, you'd tense up too.
The repetition of the accusation and his action of making an illegal left turn just to escape highlights the immediate real-world threat presented by this casual, in-your-face hatred from complete strangers.
It's a stark reminder that even outside their privileged, detached bubbles, the world is aggressive, unpredictable, and full of potentially violent asshats who will yell slurs at you for no reason. He has to break traffic laws just to get away from these jerks spewing their hateful bullshit.
Later, Clay is waiting for Rip at Cafe Casino in Westwood. He passively observes people, fixating on seemingly random details, the Christmas display, the staring man. His hands are still shaking, a persistent physical symptom of his anxiety or state.
The plastic Santa with the styrofoam candy cane, the boxes, he wonders if there's anything in them. It's like he's projecting his own sense of emptiness onto these hollow holiday decorations.
Yeah.
Nothing in the boxes, nothing inside him.
The staring man prompts a disquieting thought. Either he doesn't see me or I'm not here. This reinforces the sense of unreality and invisibility that Clay often feels. His disconnection is so profound, he questions his own physical presence in the world.
Am I even real?
The merging line pops back into his head, the original glitch resurfacing.
And then there are these two girls at the next table talking about hair color maroon, anthracite, red, violet, and one asks the other straight up, what's anthracite, after using the word.
This is another moment highlighting the superficiality and utter shallowness of interactions and language use in this world. People using words or ideas without understanding their meaning, a reflection of the lack of depth and genuine engagement with the world around them.
Conversational bullshit.
It's just conversational bullshit using sounds without meaning. And Rip doesn't even show up for the meeting. His unreliability is immediately established.
Classic Rip, the dealer, keeping you waiting. He finally tells Clay to come over to his apartment on Wilshire, and when Clay gets there, man. Spin is sunbathing nude on the balcony like it's nothing. Devo's on the stereo. Rip is in bed, also nude, casually cutting coke on a mirror.
The visual details immediately immerse us in the casual, open, brazen nature of drug use and nudity in these private spaces. It's treated as completely normal, part of the furniture, nothing to be pissed off about or surprised by.
Just another day.
It's just how things are in Rip's world, the standard operating procedure.
And Rip immediately offers Clay coke. Clay declines for now. Rip just asks him, what do you need? Implying drugs. That's the interaction.
The interaction is purely transactional, centered around obtaining drugs. There's no discussion of how Clay is doing, no real catch-up on his time away, just a casual offer and an assumption about what Clay wants, what he needs from Rip.
It's just business.
This reinforces the idea that relationships and interactions in this world are often based solely on utility or access to vice. It's a cold, transactional, kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it's just, okay, you're here. Do you need drugs? Yes, no. Okay, processing complete. No deep connection, just what can I get from you? What do you need from me?
As the narrative progresses, the depravity escalates, and the character's numbness becomes even more apparent. We see this escalating with Trent again, fixated on scoring coke.
Trent's trying desperately to get coke, can't reach Julian. He's clearly frustrated, spiraling, and he suggests Clay go see a movie, but then immediately pivots and ruins it by saying Clay should go with his faggot friends, like Daniel or Rip, calling Daniel's party a fag party.
Trent's use of homophobic slurs is casual, aggressive, and a direct expression of his ingrained prejudice and lack of filter. It's weaponized language used when he's stressed or angry.
And then he yells into the phone about needing his lousy fucking coke. That's his priority.
Trent embodies the casual cruelty and self-absorption so prevalent in this environment. His language is explicitly offensive and in your face, using slurs freely as part of his normal communication. His frustration over drug access is his sole focus, leading him to lash out and project his issues onto others.
Total asshat behavior.
He's definitely portrayed as a high-functioning asshat, completely centered on his own needs and willing to be openly hateful.
A complete asshat whose main concern is his coke supply, and he uses homophobic slurs when he's pissed off about it. A truly charming individual.
Then there's Daniel's party. The maid is freaking out, knows she'll be fired because of the state of the house after the party. Daniel's parents are conspicuously absent. One is Japan, I think. The other Aspen. The third shopping.
Parental neglect and absence is a screaming theme here, isn't it? These kids are left completely to their own devices in these huge empty houses that become zones of chaos and destruction.
It's a vacuum.
Daniel's mother calls, talks about a strange dream about kidnapping, mentions a migraine, hasn't even seen Daniel in days despite being in the same city.
Her detachment is palpable, almost clinical. Her concerns are entirely self-focused. Her dream, her physical discomfort, rather than her son's well-being or what's happening in her own house.
All better.
The household is dysfunctional. The adults are physically and emotionally absent. It's a system designed for neglect.
Blair's there too, paranoid about total narcs and anxious to leave, sensing the instability maybe.
The party environment is depicted not as a space of joyous celebration, but of superficiality, paranoia, and potential danger feeding into that underlying anxiety.
And Daniel talks about his situation with Vanda, a possible pregnancy, maybe an abortion, an uncertain future. It's all discussed in this vague, detached way. She might or might not be coming back. It might or might not be his kid. She might or might not get an abortion.
Daniel's life, like Clay's, is characterized by profound uncertainty and a lack of stable ground. Serious, life-altering events like pregnancy and abortion are discussed with a startling lack of emotional weight, clarity, or urgency.
Just possibilities.
It's just abstract possibilities, like discussing weather patterns.
And he feels better after taking a bad Quaalude at the party. Think about that. He feels better after a bad Quaalude.
The casual mention of a bad Quaalude being just another incident underscores how normalized drug use is and how warped their perception of well-being is. Even a negative drug experience, one that makes you feel bad, somehow serves a purpose or leads to a state perceived as better.
Totally backwards logic.
It's just another fucked up incident in a string of them, barely worth noting.
Yeah. Oh, felt better after that bad Quaalude. Just another Tuesday night in this insane world.
The Christmas Eve dinner at Chasen's is another pivotal scene demonstrating the pervasive emptiness within the family unit, a formal ritual devoid of substance.
Clay's hands are shaking again, a persistent physical symptom. He's having difficulty eating, overwhelmed, wishing he had Coke to get through it. His father is pouring champagne, and the conversation is incredibly superficial, talking about numbers from the party, who was there.
The ritual of a family dinner is performed, but it's devoid of warmth or genuine connection. Clay's physical symptoms and internal desire for drugs highlight his profound anxiety and detachment, his inability to cope even within this supposedly familiar, formal setting.
He's a chemical boost.
He needs chemical assistance to function.
The sisters are bored, glued to their own world, talking about anorexic friends and models, asking for Galaga again. The parents are having this incredibly detached conversation about associates dying pancreatic cancer, mastectomy, and business deals.
The casualness with which serious illness and death are discussed is chilling. It indicates a profound numbness, a desensitization to significant life events.
Like reading the obituaries.
The focus remains rigidly on superficiality's appearance, models, anorexic friends, material desires, Galaga, and business transactions. It's a profoundly disconnected conversation about the realities of life and death, treated as if they're discussing stock prices.
His father asks what Clay wants for Christmas, and Clay says flatly, nothing.
Clay's inability to ask for anything, his stated desire for nothing, encapsulates his sense of emptiness and lack of connection to traditional desires or familial exchange.
Doesn't want anything.
There is literally nothing this world or his family within it can offer him that feels meaningful or desired.
And while all this is happening externally, Clay's internal thoughts are swirling, disconnected from the conversation. The disappear here billboard, Julian's eyes, wondering if he's for sale. The people are afraid to merge. Line again, the lit pool water.
This contrast between the mundane, numb external interaction and Clay's fragmented, disturbing internal landscape is striking. His mind is haunted by these unsettling images and phrases, reflecting his preoccupation with themes of disappearance, commodification, and fundamental disconnection.
Still thinking about Julian.
The thought, wonder if he's for sale, echoing his sister's earlier casual comment about a boy, is particularly ominous, directly linking back to the impending revelation about Julian's situation.
Yeah, that disturbing line about Julian potentially being for sale comes back while he's sitting there at Christmas dinner. It's like his brain can't escape the darkest possibilities, even when surrounded by family.
It's running in the background.
The family is having a normal, if detached, chat, and his brain is running a background process on prostitution and disappearance.
Driving After Chasins continues this theme of environmental decay mirroring internal states. The streets are empty, the hot wind is still blowing. They see an overturned car on Little Santa Monica.
And the sisters, morbidly curious, crane their necks to see it, asking their mother to slow down. But she doesn't. She just keeps going.
The visual of the overturned car serves as a blunt symbol of disruption and decay in the environment. The sisters' morbid curiosity highlights a desensitization to tragedy, treating it as spectacle.
Just a roadside attraction.
The mother's lack of response or unwillingness to slow down underscores her own detachment, her desire to move past the unpleasant reality. Even the physical environment reflects that things are pretty fucked up, broken, and ignored.
Jimmy's bar is empty, the piano player singing a mournful September song. His father complains there aren't Christmas carols, wanting a specific expected holiday soundtrack. The sisters see a lizard in the restroom, and their mother just shrugs, says she doesn't get it.
The emptiness of these usually social spaces reinforces the sense of isolation. The bizarre, seemingly irrelevant detail of the lizard in the restroom and the mother's non-reaction add to the surreal, detached atmosphere of the scene.
Weird detail.
Reality presents something unexpected, and the response is blankness or annoyance that it doesn't fit the script.
And Clay flirts awkwardly with a girl who looks like someone from New Hampshire, the place he just left, but then feels like a fool wishing his grandpa Merry Christmas on the phone in front of her.
Social interactions are awkward and forced, lacking authenticity. Clay's self-consciousness and awkwardness, feel like a fool, suggest a difficulty in navigating even simple social exchanges, further highlighting his pervasive disconnection from the people and environment around him.
Totally awkward.
This whole scene, from the car crash to the lizard to the awkward phone call, feels consistently pretty damn fucked up in its mundane strangeness and disconnection.
Yeah, it's like every attempt at normalcy or connection is just off-key, stilted. It's a consistent thread of underlying bullshit and profound detachment, even in small moments.
Moving further into the darker realities depicted, the text provides vivid memories and observations that reveal the depth of the decay and trauma embedded in this world. The Palm Springs memories are particularly unsettling, despite being a place of escape.
The intense, oppressive heat, the twisting metal grids melting in the sun, the hot, dry winds. He describes the nights as black, hot, and quiet, but not in a peaceful way.
The environment itself is depicted as hostile and oppressive, almost alienating. The extreme heat causing physical distortion of metal structures creates a sense of a world literally melting or breaking down.
World falling apart.
The quiet of the nights is not serene, but eerie, heavy with unspoken threat. The landscape is actively hostile.
And he's driving alone, his breath raspy and dry, coming in uneven gasps. He sees his own eyes in the rearview mirror, red and scared, gets frightened, runs inside, locks the door.
Clay's internal state mirrors the disturbing environment. He is physically and psychologically affected by the atmosphere, driven by an unnamed fear that leads to a physical panic response, shallow breathing, fear in his own reflection. This suggests a deeper anxiety or trauma linked to this place or experience, something he's running from but carries internally.
He tries to cope by smoking joints by the lit pool just to get to sleep, to shut his system down. And there are strange sounds and lights next door, hinting at something unseen and disturbing happening nearby.
Drug use as a means of escape, of forcing the system offline, is presented again. The strange sounds and lights hint at unseen darkness or disturbing activities happening nearby, adding to the pervasive sense of unease and hidden depravity that permeates the environment, even in a place meant for rest.
No escape.
It's a world where even relaxation and sleep require chemical intervention, and the night is full of vague, unsettling threats that you have to actively lock yourself away from.
Then we get perhaps one of the most chilling details, the newspaper clippings. He collected clippings about gruesome events when he was 15 years old.
Listing specific, horrific acts of violence: a kid shooting his brother, a father nailing his kid to a wall and shooting him, a fire killing elderly people, a housewife driving off an embankment, a man running over his ex-wife.
Jesus Christ, a catalog of horrors.
A literal catalog of human horror and suffering.
And his reason for collecting them. Because There were a lot to be collected, not because it was shocking or sad, but because it was plentiful.
This detail is profoundly disturbing. It reveals an early exposure to, or perhaps even a desensitized fascination with, extreme violence and suffering. The casual explanation, a lot to be collected, is chillingly detached,
Completely detached.
suggesting that these horrific events were so common, so normalized in his experience, that collecting them was simply a natural, almost mundane response, like collecting baseball cards. It paints a horrifying picture of the reality he grew up in, a constant overflowing stream of violent bullshit that he simply documented without apparent emotional response.
What does that say about Clay's world? And about him, that these horrific events were so common he'd collect newspaper clippings, and his response is just that flat, that level of detachment to human suffering.
It's deeply unsettling.
It's beyond fucked up. It suggests a fundamental breaking down of empathy from a very young age.
The Saturday night scene further layers paranoia, disturbing elements, and casual cruelty. Trent tells a story about hysterical JAPs seeing a monster or werewolf and a mutilated dog.
Trent dismisses it, of course, with his typical asshat casual racism, saying they probably just drank too much tab. But the detail of the mutilated dog is specific and deeply disturbing.
Regardless of Trent's dismissal and the likely mundane cause of the initial sighting, the story itself, and especially that detail, contributes to the pervasive sense of unseen danger and horror lurking beneath the surface of their reality.
Adds to the dread.
Clay's reaction is telling. It makes me uneasy. Even his muted response signals that this world is constantly feeding a sense of dread.
He tries, perhaps seeking connection or information, to call Julian again. But again, no answer. And as he's alone, he hears screaming next door. Down the canyon, dog barking, KROQ playing the Doors, adding to the atmosphere. War of the Worlds is on TV, and a preacher yelling on TV, completely out of context. Lie back and let him use you.
The layering of unsettling sounds screams that may or may not be real distress. Barking dogs, atmospheric, slightly menacing music, a preacher chanting predatory-sounding phrases like, use you, directly feeds Clay's growing anxiety and paranoia.
Nightmare fuel.
The preacher's words, taken out of context, sound deeply disturbing and manipulative, perfectly fitting the general fucked-up vibe of a world where people are constantly exploited and used. His environment, both real and mediated, conspires to create dread.
He's drinking gin, trying to numb it maybe, imagining someone breaking in, staying up looking for werewolves in the canyons outside, and then he hears about 4 people being beaten to death in the hills on the local news.
The line between reality and delusion blurs for Clay. His paranoia leads to physical actions like closing the window and staying up, driven by a fear that seems to incorporate both real reported dangers, the news report of beatings, and imagined ones, werewolves.
Can't tell what's real.
It shows how deeply the pervasive sense of threat has infiltrated his psyche. The casual racism from Trent again earlier in the scene just confirms what a consistent asshat he is, even when recounting supposedly supernatural events.
Yeah, the external horror and his internal fear just feed each other in a never-ending loop. He can't distinguish between the actual violence and the vague dread.
At Kim's party, we see Muriel again, having apparently been discharged from the hospital. She's at the bar, laughing, holding punch. Kim says she's wonderful, just taking lithium, just tired, a little strung out.
The superficial appearance of fine or wonderful is immediately undercut by the details of her medication and stated mental emotional state. It's another blatant example of masking deep distress with a false front,
Totally a facade.
trying to maintain a social facade despite inner turmoil.
And then there's this detail dropped in with shocking casualness. Her mother just bought her a $55,000 Porsche.
What? 55 grand for a Porsche? Just like that. It's insane.
This outrageous detail highlights the immense privilege and the utterly dysfunctional way material possessions are used as a substitute for genuine care or connection.
Buys her off.
Instead of addressing her daughter's clear struggles with anorexia and mental health issues requiring lithium, the mother buys her a luxury sports car. It's a chilling example of parental detachment and the use of wealth to paper over profound problems. It's such a fucked up way to parent. A total abdication of responsibility replaced by a big-ticket item.
It's like, here, have a ridiculously expensive car. Maybe that'll fix your eating disorder and mental health problems. It's total bullshit parenting, a complete lack of understanding about what's needed.
And despite the appearance of being fine, despite the laughter and the Porsche, Muriel locks herself in Kim's room.
Showing that the facade is fragile, temporary. Her inability to cope with the social environment results in self-isolation, withdrawing from the party despite being physically present.
To trash.
The system crashes and she retreats.
Which leads us to a peak moment of horror, a nadir of depravity depicted in these excerpts. Finding Muriel in Kim's room. She's crying, drooling, makeup smeared, mascara running.
A whole breakdown.
A picture of despair and breakdown, and she fills a syringe with blood.
Just a graphic, visceral depiction of self-destruction and despair. This is not just strung out. This is a person in complete crisis.
And to amplify the horror, there's a photographer there taking a picture of her.
Oh my God. The photo being taken adds an utterly horrifying layer. It indicates that this moment of extreme self-destruction, this raw display of suffering, is being documented, perhaps even performed, for others.
It's spectacle.
It turns Muriel's breakdown and dangerous actions into a spectacle, something to be captured, consumed, and observed. It's completely depraved, treating human agonies content.
Kim is there, stroking her head, offering comfort, but immediately resorts to enabling, saying that once she gets drunk, she's fine. Spit says, "Oh man, this is wild." Clay's hands are shaking his recurring physical symptom, and he lights a cigarette.
Kim's reaction is enabling and minimizes the severity, suggesting getting drunk will magically fix things, masking the pain with more chemicals. Spit's reaction, "This is wild," is passive observation, treating this horrific scene as entertainment, something exciting to witness.
These responses underscore the friends' profound desensitization and inability to react appropriately or with genuine concern to extreme distress and danger. They are passive observers, treating Muriel's breakdown and dangerous actions as a spectacle, a show.
No empathy.
Their empathy modules appear non-functional.
And Clay's physical shaking is one of the few outward signs of distress we see from him. But even he just lights a cigarette, his own coping mechanism kicking in.
His physical reaction suggests a flicker of emotional response, perhaps horror or anxiety, a system overload warning. But his action is one of self-soothing or avoidance rather than intervention.
Doesn't step in.
He, too, is primarily an observer in this moment of fucked-up bullshit, unable or unwilling to break the cycle of passive witnessing.
Yeah, the photo being taken, the casual reactions, the passive observation, it all just amplifies the depravity of the scene. It's truly fucked up that this is how they react to a friend in crisis.
The abyss deepens significantly with Julian's situation and the encounter at Finn's penthouse. Julian takes Clay there, referring to it chillingly as Finn's office.
A penthouse, completely bare and white, floor-to-ceiling windows everywhere, mirrors on the ceiling. Clay feels vertigo, paranoia, wonders if his father, presumably in his own distant penthouse, can see him here.
The stark, sterile, minimalist environment creates a powerful sense of unreality and coldness. The vertigo and paranoia Clay experiences suggest the unsettling nature of the space and perhaps a subconscious awareness of being exposed, vulnerable, or under surveillance in this elevated artificial environment.
Feels watched.
His thought about his father reinforces the lingering influence of his detached family, even when he's deep in the underworld.
And Finn is there, described as maybe 25, 30, unremarkable looking on the surface, except for the vials of drugs sitting openly on his desk. And this glass paperweight with a dead fish trapped inside.
The dead fish in the paperweight is an incredibly potent, chilling symbol. It represents life, trapped, extinguished, rendered immobile and lifeless within a sterile, artificial environment.
Wow, yeah.
It perfectly encapsulates the fate of people caught in this world, trapped, exploited, lifeless within the confines of this depraved reality. It's a literal object lesson in what happens here. Julian is clearly trapped, just like that dead fish, existing in a sterile environment under the control of another.
Yeah, that image just sticks with you. Trapped and dead, displayed like an object. And Finn calls Julian his best boy, says he cares for him, just like my own kid.
Finn's language is a masterclass in manipulative, predatory control. He uses terms of endearment and familial affection. Best boy, like my own kid, care for you, to mask his brutal exploitation and ownership of Julian. It's a twisted, perverse form of control, framing his victims as beloved possessions. He's an absolute asshat pimp, using sentimental language to hide his true nature.
And he wants Julian to do a little favor for money Julian apparently owes him.
The money Julian needs, the reason he's in this situation, is clearly tied to this dangerous, exploitative relationship with Finn. The little favor is implicitly something that involves Julian being prostituted.
We know what it means.
It's framed innocuously, but the context makes it clear what's being asked.
Julian, for a fleeting second, tries to protect Clay. Don't drag anybody else into this.
This shows that Julian retains a shred of empathy, a last vestige of concern for his friend, a desire to shield him from the darkness he himself is enmeshed in.
Still cares a bit.
His programming for friendship hasn't been entirely overwritten.
But Finn immediately dismisses it, insists they go to the set marquee. Clay admits he has the shakes, the physical symptom of his anxiety or distress returning. Finn asks about Julian's parents, and Julian just says flatly, I don't know.
Julian is deeply enmeshed and utterly powerless against Finn's control. Clay's shaking hands physically manifest his anxiety or withdrawal, a recurring system instability when confronted with this world's reality.
Hands shaking again.
Julian's answer about his parents reinforces the theme of profound parental absence and lack of support, a vulnerability that figures like Finn are able to exploit. He has no safety net, no one to run to.
And then a surfer enters, a casual detail, mentions Manuel is on the phone, and Finn tells Julian, right in front of Clay, to keep up the Nautilus, keep up the bod, and winks.
The casual mention of Manuel implies other clients or transactions, showing the scale of Finn's operation. Finn's explicit focus on Julian's physical appearance, keep up the bod, keep up the Nautilus, brutally reinforces the commodification of Julian.
Just a product.
His body is a commodity that needs to be maintained like a piece of equipment for Finn's business. Finn is an utterly despicable asshole pimp, reducing Julian to his physical form and its market value.
Yeah, Julian's just a product to be kept in shape, displayed, sold. Total dehumanizing bullshit.
In the elevator ride down from the penthouse, Clay asked Julian why he didn't explain that the money was for this, why he didn't tell him the real nature of the debt or relationship.
And Julian, described with eyes all glassy, sad grin, just responds, who cares? Do you?
This is a critical moment of self-reflection, or perhaps a chilling lack thereof, for Clay. Julian's question directly challenges Clay's level of engagement and empathy, throwing the responsibility back onto him.
Turns it on Clay.
Does Clay care enough to have asked? Does he care enough now?
And Clay's realization is stark and disturbing. He finds that he doesn't care. He feels foolish, stupid for even asking, for expecting a different answer, and then, most disturbingly, thinks, all that does is that I want to see the worst.
This is a chilling turning point. Clay confronts his own profound numbness and finds that rather than being repelled by the darkness and depravity, he is morbidly curious, even drawn to it.
Wants to see the horror.
His desire to see the worst is a perverse curiosity born of his deep detachment and desensitization. He is not merely a passive observer. He is becoming actively complicit, his own internal void leading him towards seeking out depravity as a form of something. Yeah. Maybe the only thing he can still feel curiosity about.
Yeah, he realizes he's not just a tourist in this fucked up world anymore. He's part of it. And his only remaining drive is a sick curiosity about how much worse it can get. That's a messed up destination for your psyche.
At the St. Marquis Hotel, the site of the favor, Julian goes into a room with a man. Clay is initially told to wait outside, then brought in to watch. The man tells Clay, with chilling specificity, no music. I want you to hear it all. Everything.
Oh, God. The instruction, hear it all, everything, is designed to force Clay, and by extension the listener, to fully confront the reality of what is happening to Julian. It emphasizes the sounds of the exploitation, making it impossible to ignore.
No escaping it.
To intellectualize or gloss over the human cost. It's audio data that cannot be filtered.
Julian is told to strip naked, including his underwear, removing all pretense and protection. Clay goes to the bathroom, his system reacting, tries physically to throw up. He flushes the toilet repeatedly, a desperate, futile attempt to drown out the sounds he was told to hear.
Clay's physical attempt to throw up shows a flicker of revulsion, a basic bodily reaction against the horror, a system attempting to purge the unbearable input. Flushing the toilet is an active attempt to create a sonic barrier, to escape the mandated audio feed.
But he comes back. Julian is naked, trying to smile despite the situation. The man rolls Julian over. Clay lights a cigarette, his coping mechanism, and pointedly states he doesn't close his eyes.
Watches the whole thing.
His thoughts in this moment are chillingly detached, echoing earlier themes.
Wonder if he's for sale. You could disappear here without knowing it. Despite his physical reaction, despite his attempt to escape the sounds, Clay stays and watches. His inability to look away, his deliberate decision to keep his eyes open, and his chilling internal thoughts, the return of, wonder if he's for sale, linking Julian explicitly to the commodification hinted at earlier.
Right back to that.
And the brutal realization that you can disappear here without knowing it, confirm his deep immersion in this world's values and dangers. He is internalizing the objectification, recognizing the existential threat this environment poses to one's sense of self. You become just another object. You cease to exist as a person without even realizing it. This is some truly fucked up bullshit, witnessed and processed in the most clinical, detached way.
The phrase "you can disappear here without knowing it" is a powerful, terrifying summary of the central theme, the gradual, insidious erosion of identity, selfhood, and humanity in this environment of excess, exploitation, and detachment.
Fade to nothing.
You don't just vanish, you fade away without even noticing you're gone.
Yeah, you just fade to nothing. Become less than zero without even realizing it's happening. It's a terrifying prospect, the slow death of the self.
The final scene concerning Julian in these excerpts takes place later at the Land's End Club. It's dark, described ominously like a cave. Underage kids are hassled outside, but Julian is winked in, retaining some residual status or privilege despite his circumstances.
Julian still has some juice, some status symbol, maybe who he knows, maybe his look that gets him past the gatekeepers where other kids can't. But even inside, amidst the noise and the crowd, there's hostility. A girl gives Julian the finger and calls Clay a punk faggot as they pass.
The casual hostility and use of homophobic slurs by other kids within the scene, even towards someone with perceived status, reinforces the aggressive social environment.
Always hostile.
Even among peers, there's cruelty, prejudice, and a quickness to lash out. It's a world where you're judged and attacked constantly.
Lee the DJ is there, part of the scene, but also working for Finn, looking nervous. Finn wants another little favor from Julian for the money Julian is supposed to get.
The transactional nature of Julian's relationship with Finn is brutally reiterated. The money he is owed, the money he needs, is explicitly contingent upon performing further sexual acts.
Pay to play, literally.
Lee's nervousness suggests he is uncomfortable being involved in Finn's business, perhaps having more empathy than others, but is nonetheless complicit by facilitating.
Julian finally reaches a breaking point. He yells, acts like an asshole, maybe to create distance, says, "Leave me the suck alone, don't touch me." He's trying to push back, trying to break free.
Julian reaches a moment of raw, desperate defiance, expressing his revulsion and anguish at his situation. This is a rare, powerful outburst of emotion in a world largely defined by numbness and passive acceptance.
Finally shows something.
It's his system screaming for help.
But Finn is right there, calls him pathetic, says he has no choice, explicitly stating Julian can't run to mommy or daddy because they're not there.
Yeah.
He pushes Julian against the door, asserting physical dominance.
Finn's manipulation and cruelty are direct, brutal, and targeted at Julian's deepest vulnerabilities. He reinforces Julian's powerlessness and dependence, explicitly mentioning the absence of parental support as a reason Julian is trapped and has no recourse.
To us today.
He's an asshole pimp, making it abundantly clear Julian is utterly fucked, owned. He knows where to hit to hurt.
And Julian screams at him, says Finn turned him into a whore.
A direct, painful accusation of his exploitation and the destruction of his identity. He names the reality of his situation.
But Finn's response is chilling, deflecting responsibility while twisting the knife. "I didn't turn you into a whore, you did it yourself."
Finn's assertion is brutal, manipulative, and deeply cruel. While it's true that Julian's choices, like drug use leading to debt, and circumstances, lack of support, contributed to his vulnerability, Finn actively denies his own role as an exploiter, a trafficker,
That's no blame.
and shifts the entire burden of responsibility and blame onto Julian, compounding his suffering and self-loathing. It's the ultimate bullshit gaslighting from an abuser.
Julian cries, says he's sorry, apologizing to his abuser. Think about that. Finn leads Julian upstairs into a room. The text describes low moans, then a scream. The door slams shut. Julian disappears. Clay leaves the house.
This is the tragic, horrifying climax of Julian's storyline in the excerpts. His emotional breakdown, his apology to his abuser, followed by being led into the room and the sounds of moans and a final scream, signify his full, agonizing descent back into the horror of his exploitation.
Consumed by it.
Julian is literally consumed by the darkness with Finn, his fate sealed within the confines of that room. Clay's departure immediately after signifies his abandonment of his friend and his continued flight from confronting the depth of the depravity he has witnessed.
Just walks away.
He doesn't intervene, he doesn't call the cops, he doesn't help, he leaves, proving, perhaps, that he ultimately doesn't give a flying F-bomb about Julian's fate or anyone else's, not enough to act.
The soundscape of the club. The loud music trying to provide cover. The distinct, horrifying sounds from the room upstairs. It just amplifies the feeling of this scene, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
The regular debauchery of the club providing cover for this absolute horror happening just upstairs, a thin wall away.
Yeah.
And Clay just walks away, leaving the screen behind.
Yes, the contrast is stark and deliberate. The fans highlight that even amidst the noise and distraction of the club, the personal horror of Julian's situation is explicit, unavoidable, and deeply disturbing. Clay's inaction here is profoundly significant. It shows the paralysis and detachment that defines this world.
Frozen or just doesn't care enough?
The darkness escalates even further, reaching its most depraved point, with the scene at the Roxy and the encounter in the alley. At the Roxy, we see the casual aggressive racism and homophobia on full display, not just hinted at, but raw and explicit among Clay's friends.
Rip says straight up, there are too many fucking Mexicans here, dude. Spin doubles down with chilling casualness. Let's kill them all. Trent, the asshat, just laughs, reinforcing it.
Yeah, Trent just laughs.
And Rip takes it physical, calls a dark boy he bumps into fucking Spick, and pushes him.
This isn't just passive prejudice or muttered slurs. It's explicit, violent language and physical aggression directed at strangers based purely on ethnicity. It's a stark, brutal demonstration of the dehumanization and casual cruelty within this group.
Truly hateful.
Trent laughing validates the behavior. This isn't just generalized bullshit. It's genuinely hateful, brash, and actively violent behavior. Their entitlement extends to physical assault and death wishes.
What utter asshats. They're not just detached and numb. They're actively hostile, hateful, and physically aggressive towards people they see as other. It's a toxic core beneath the apathy.
Then Ross leads them to an alley where a dead boy's body is propped up against a wall. A grim discovery, presented without ceremony.
A graphic, unflinching description of the body, bloated, pale face, eyes shut, mouth open, dried blood. Rip's reaction is chillingly practical. He notes no socks.
No socks, seriously.
Spin thinks he knows him. Rip immediately dismisses it with bullshit. Trent calls Spin sick.
The body is treated not with reverence or even basic human horror, but as an object of morbid curiosity or even dark, detached humor. No socks. The friends' reactions are either dismissive, focused on trivial details, or expressing a shallow form of disgust directed at each other, not the situation.
Distorted reactions.
Their processing of death is utterly skewed.
And then Rip takes it to a level that is just beyond. He sticks his cigarette in the dead boy's mouth.
This action is profoundly disturbing, arguably the ultimate expression of disregard for human life and dignity in the scene. It's a moment of shocking desecration, treating the corpse as a plaything, an object for a sick joke.
Sick joke is right.
The complete lack of a humane reaction, the casualness of this act of vandalism on a corpse underscores the depth of their desensitization. They stand there for 5 minutes, observing the body and their own actions.
5 minutes, just hanging out, looking at the dead kid, sticking a cigarette in his mouth. That scene is just completely horrifyingly fucked up. The casualness of death, the total lack of respect for human life is laid bare. This isn't even less than 0. This is like negative 100.
The darkest level of depravity depicted in these excerpts, the absolute nadir of this world's sickness, is the scene concerning Chandra in Rip's apartment. Rip takes Clay, Trent, and Ross into his bedroom.
And there's a naked girl described as very young and pretty, tied to the bedposts, arms tied above her head. She's restrained. She has a rash, described in crude detail, dry, shaved. She's moaning, murmuring, licking her lips. Clearly not okay.
The graphic details emphasize the vulnerability, helplessness, and absolute exploitation of the girl. The physical constraints indicate force, lack of consent, and captivity. She is completely at their mercy.
Spin kneels next to her, whispers something to her, and injects her arm with a syringe.
This confirms she is being drugged, likely to make her more compliant, making her even more vulnerable and highlighting the predatory nature of the scene. She is being physically and chemically controlled.
Jesus. Clay just stares, frozen. Trent says with detached observation, wow. Rip says something, but it's not specified what.
The friends' reactions are minimal, passive, or expressing detached indifference. Wow. This casualness in the face of such explicit horror highlights how deeply desensitized they are, or perhaps how normalized such acts might be within the deepest, darkest corners of their experience.
This is normal.
Their emotional response systems are offline.
And then the reveal that makes it unequivocally monstrous. Rip states, she's 12.
The age reveal transforms the scene from exploitation to criminal child sexual abuse and drugging. It makes the horror concrete and absolute. It's not just fucked up, it's pure, unadulterated evil.
12 years old. And Spin laughs, and says, and she is tight, man.
This comment is utterly repulsive, dehumanizing, and reveals a complete lack of empathy or recognition of the girl's humanity or suffering. It reduces the 12-year-old girl to a purely sexual object, devoid of any dignity or personhood.
Disgusting.
It is pure, unadulterated cruelty expressed with chilling casualness. This is the absolute worst level of bullshit depicted in these excerpts, the bottom of the barrel.
Pure, unforgivable horror, expressed with the language of a locker room discussion about performance. Clay asks who she is, and Rip says Chandra, that she goes to Corvallis. Giving her a name and a school makes it horrifyingly real.
Yeah, gives her an identity.
Spin then takes off his clothes, has a harden, pushes it at her lips, and offers Clay to watch.
The identification of the girl provides a specific chilling detail, anchoring the horror in a concrete individual, making her a specific victim, not an abstraction. Spin's actions and explicit repulsive offer to Clay attempt to draw Clay further into active complicity.
Pulling him in.
Not just by being present and witnessing, but by potentially participating or condoning. It's a test of his boundaries, a push towards the edge of the abyss of depravity, asking him to co-process this horrific data stream.
Clay's reaction is limited, muted. He physically leaves the room. He asks Rip, weakly, why?
His physical withdrawal from the room is a reaction, a step away from the immediate visceral horror, but it is passive. His question, why, is a weak protest, an attempt to seek a rational explanation for the irrational and utterly depraved.
A weak why?
It's the last gasp of a functioning moral compass.
And Riplet's confused, utterly lacking understanding, asks, why not? What the hell?
Rip's response encapsulates the complete nihilistic lack of morality that defines this world and its inhabitants at its core. Why not? It suggests there are no ethical boundaries, nothing inherently wrong with the act.
No rules applied.
What the hell indicates a genuine lack of understanding of Clay's revulsion. He doesn't even comprehend the question. It's the definitive statement of their moral vacuum.
Clay makes a final, desperate protest. Oh, God, Rip, come on, she's 11. And Rip corrects him flatly, 12. Ross is still completely unaffected, playing Centipede in the other room.
Playing video games.
And calls out, asking if Clay is going back to check out that body again, referring to the dead boy in the alley. Clay leaves, closes the door behind him.
Clay's final protest is muted, hesitant, and even slightly misinformed about the girl's exact age. Rip's correction is factual, but devoid of remorse or recognition of the monstrous nature of the act. Ross's comment, still focused on the dead boy in the alley, demonstrates the complete objectification of others in this world.
Both victims are just bodies.
Both the dead, that body, and the living victim, that body seems to also implicitly refer to the girl. Clay's final action of leaving the room and closing the door is an escape, a physical removal, not an intervention or condemnation. It underscores the pervasive paralysis and inability to care or act in a meaningful way in the face of such profound evil. His internal state seems utterly pissed off, maybe overwhelmed, but his external action is simply flight, abandoning the horror and his friend to it.
Yeah, it's like his only reaction is to physically remove himself from the data stream, and even that protest is weak, easily dismissed. And the others just continue as if nothing happened, objectifying victims, playing video games. The sheer accepted depravity is mind-boggling.
Even as Clay prepares to leave Los Angeles to return to New Hampshire, the shadows of this world linger and the themes of decay, numbness, and inescapable darkness persist. We see this in the Rancho Mirage story that surfaces.
The story of a girl found brutally murdered, raped, mutilated, hung upside down, and the friend disappearing, the house burning down. Rumors swirling about whether he fled to Mexico, Canada, London, or was caught and institutionalized.
This is a story of extreme, grotesque violence that has become part of the local lore, a background hum of horror, yet it's still shrouded in rumor and uncertainty. The sheer brutality of the act, the lingering presence of violence in the community's memory, and the unresolved nature of the friend's fate add another layer to the background of horror that permeates this environment. It's a violent event that leaves a lasting scar, but no clear answers or justice.
And Clay is drawn back to the ruins of the house where it happened. He drives there, smokes, looks for figures, listens for sounds, passively seeking out the lingering darkness. People still say you can see the boy walking through the canyons.
Clay is compelled to revisit the sites of trauma and darkness. This suggests a morbid fascination, an inability to escape the pervasive atmosphere of violence and despair, or perhaps a subconscious, nonverbal search for understanding or resolution he cannot articulate.
Drawn to the darkness.
The persistent rumors of the boy walking the canyons add a ghostly, unsettling element to the landscape, blending horror with myth. And the new sign at his old elementary school saying, "Warning, keep out, guard dogs on duty," reinforces the idea that even the past, that the supposedly innocent spaces of childhood have become corrupted, dangerous, or are simply inaccessible, locked away.
Can't go home again.
That sign is pretty brutal and in your face, explicitly stating that you cannot return to the past. There's no safe harbor there either.
Yeah, nowhere is safe, nowhere is truly innocent anymore, not even your childhood memories. The past is locked away and guarded. And he watches teenagers on TV, dancing on a local rock show, recognizing people from clubs he's been to. He focuses specifically on the ones who didn't mouth the words, who forgot them, who never knew them in the first place.
This is a sharp commentary on the passive consumption of culture and the superficiality of the youth he observes, a generation going through the motions. The teenagers who don't know or remember the lyrics symbolize their disconnection from meaning, from any shared narrative or cultural touchstone.
Empty performers.
They are simply performing, just like Clay often is, going through the motions of engaging with culture but empty inside, lacking the core data or the desire to internalize it.
Rip then takes Clay to a treacherous turn on Mulholland Drive, where many cars have crashed, where friends have died. Rip points out 20 or 30 wrecked cars piled up on the slope below.
This is a literal, stark manifestation of the suicidal trajectory of this world and the characters within it. The cliffside filled with wrecked cars is a visual graveyard resulting from recklessness, carelessness, and self-destruction.
A monument to failure.
It represents the inevitable crashing and burning that results from the path they are on. It's a monument to wasted lives, a visual representation of the phrase less than zero applied physically.
Rip says on quiet nights you can hear the screeches, the silence after the crash, the whoosh of air, the impact, brief screams. He doubts the cars will ever be removed. They'll wait till it's full, use it as an example, then just bury it.
Rip's detached description and chillingly cynical prediction reflect the utter devaluation of life and tragedy in this environment. The sounds he claims to hear are haunting, brief echoes of the lives lost in violent, sudden ends.
Ghosts in the canyon.
His idea of waiting until a pile is full and then simply burying it as an example is chillingly pragmatic and devoid of any sense of mourning, respect, or even basic human decency. It's a completely fucked up perspective on death and tragedy, treating it like a problem of waste management that might eventually serve a detached pedagogical purpose.
Clay feels the hot winds, the dust, sees the sun like a ball of fire, oppressive and burning, and he believes Rip. This grim, cynical vision of the future feels true. And Rip, after showing him this graveyard, drives down a street Clay thinks, or knows, is a dead end.
Clay's sensory experience connects him viscerally to the oppressive environment, and his belief in Rip's grim, cynical vision underscores the hold this world has on him. He accepts its brutal logic. Driving down a likely dead-end street immediately after visiting a graveyard of wrecked cars is a potent final metaphor for the direction Clay and the characters are heading.
Very good.
A path that leads nowhere, to a literal and metaphorical dead end. The image of that cliffside full of wrecked cars. What does that make you think about the direction these characters are heading, listener? It doesn't look like they're merging anywhere good.
No, it really doesn't look like they have any kind of positive destination. Just crashing, then maybe being buried. Then, in a mundane setting, the grocery store, Clay sees Finn, the architect of Julian's horror.
Finn is in the frozen food section with Jared, looking completely normal, wearing sandals and a t-shirt.
Seeing the pimp and drug dealer, the man who embodies the absolute darkest, most exploitative parts of this world, in such a normal, everyday suburban setting is incredibly unsettling.
Blurs the lines.
It completely blurs the lines between the dark underworld and everyday life, showing how deeply interconnected and pervasive the corruption is. There's no escaping it. It exists even between the ice cream and the frozen peas.
Finn sees Clay, recognizes him, grins, winks, says catch ya later, and makes gun fingers at him.
That knowing grin and gesture is a chilling reminder that Clay is still within Finn's orbit, still connected to that darkness, still seen by him. He can't fully escape it just by going to the grocery store. It follows him, acknowledges him, threatens him, or perhaps just treats him as another potential data point or resource.
Still on his radar.
The wink and the gun fingers are a final, casual assertion of power and recognition.
Finally, in a clothing store called Parachute, Trent tells Clay about seeing Evan and Julian together. They were outside Beverly Hills High talking to a kid who looked about 14.
And Trent, ever the keen observer of superficial details, noted that Julian had purple bruises around his eyes, even while wearing sunglasses.
This is a deeply disturbing final detail revealed casually in conversation. It hints strongly at Julian's continued abuse or entanglement, potentially involving underage individuals, given the location and the description of the kid.
Still getting beaten.
The bruises under the sunglasses are a physical, undeniable sign of the violence and suffering hidden beneath the surface of his appearance, confirming Julian's ongoing fucked-up reality long after the scene at the Saint Marquis. It's a brutal, lingering piece of evidence about his fate within this world.
Yeah, even at the very end of the excerpts, Julian is still clearly in hell, still being brutalized, still potentially dragging others into it. Just bruises under the sunglasses. A physical manifestation of the inescapable fucked up reality.
Leading into the final scenes focusing on Clay's departure and lingering numbness, the memory of the phone booth in Palm Desert surfaces. It's set before the main events of the book, but reveals familiar anxieties and patterns of disconnection.
He's waiting for Blair to call before she leaves for New York, feeling on edge. Described physically unbrushed hair, no socks, smoking, looking rough. Observing others, wondering if a surfer in the next booth is pretending to talk on the phone.
That's telling.
Whether it's better to pretend to connect than not talk at all.
The description highlights Clay's physical and emotional state, anxious, unkempt, feeling isolated even while observing others. His contemplation about pretending to talk underscores his preoccupation with authenticity and disconnection, wondering if the performance of connection is better than the reality of isolation.
Is fake better than nothing?
The ants drowning in the yogurt cup serve as a small, disturbing visual metaphor for life trapped and extinguished, echoing the dead fish.
He remembers Disneyland with Blair. A seemingly more innocent time, maybe? The phone rings. It's her. He tells her not to go, to come to Palm Springs instead.
Blair expresses her hurt and frustration, reminding him he promised to stay in LA and never go back east. This reveals Clay's pattern of breaking promises and causing pain through his actions or lack thereof, his unreliability as a note of connection.
He's unreliable.
Yeah.
He says he's sorry, things will be all right. He tries to offer reassurance. And she asks him if he remembers that night at Disneyland they had. He says yes. And she asks chillingly, what night at Disneyland?
This question from Blair is devastating, a brutal erasure of shared experience. It highlights a fundamental disconnect, an inability to share or even recall shared memories.
Memory wiped.
It suggests either Blair is deliberately distancing herself, erasing their past together to make leaving easier, or Clay's memory of it is inaccurate or unreliable due to his state. Regardless, it underscores the profound breakdown of their relationship and the difficulty of finding common ground or shared reality.
It's already broken.
Their connection is already fractured, already less than zero, even before the full horrors of the book's events unfold. They hung up after that, the conversation terminated by a fundamental lack of shared data.
Yeah, what night at Disneyland just vaporizes the memory or shows he never really connected to it in the first place. It was just background data for him. It's a painful moment of realizing how profoundly disconnected they already were.
The lunch with Blair near the end of the excerpts is perhaps the most explicit conversation about Clay's state of being, his internal programming laid bare. She asks why he came back, what he's been doing. He gets pissed off when asked these simple questions about himself.
His defensiveness and irritability when asked simple questions about his life reveal his emotional state and unwillingness to engage or be open. He's resistant to self-disclosure, resistant to processing his own experiences.
He says he doesn't remember his weekend nothing. She asks if he expected to find something in LA.
He admits to remembering nothing significant or impactful about his time, reinforcing the sense that his experiences, however extreme, are failing to make a lasting impression or break through his profound numbness.
Doesn't register.
The input is being received, but not processed into memory or meaning.
She asks him directly if he ever loved her. He pretends not to hear, deliberately ignoring the question, a refusal to process the emotional data. She repeats it. He ignores her again, looks away, distracts himself by looking at a billboard.
His inability or refusal to answer this direct question about his feelings is incredibly telling. He actively avoids emotional confrontation and expresses his profound attachment and inability to connect through silence and distraction.
Avoids the question.
He cannot or will not access or articulate that feeling.
She pushes him, says he never made an effort, was never there for her, felt sorry for him, and gives perhaps the most cutting, brutal assessment of him. You're a beautiful boy, Clay, but that's about it.
Ouch. Blair's assessment is harsh, but in the context of everything we've seen, brutally honest. She sees through his superficial appearance and recognizes the emotional void, the lack of substance beneath the surface.
Cuts deep.
It's a cutting, blunt statement about his lack of depth and his inability to engage meaningfully with another person. She's cutting through all his bullshit excuses and evasions.
She asks what he cares about, what makes him happy. He gives perhaps his most defining, devastating statement, the core thesis of his state. Nothing. Nothing makes me happy. I like nothing.
This is it. This is the core of the less than zero feeling articulated. A state of complete emptiness, a declared lack of interest, joy, or care for anything. He articulates his nihilism directly, confirms his own null state.
He goes on to explain his rationale for not wanting to care. I don't want to care. If I care about things, it'll just be worse.
He believes that feeling or caring will only lead to more pain and worry, more complexity, more input he can't process. So he actively chooses numbness, detachment, a state of nothing, as a form of self-preservation.
A defense mechanism.
A defense mechanism against a world he perceives as overwhelmingly negative and painful. His system has decided emotional processing is too high cost, too high risk.
She says she cared about him for a while, recognizes the futility, then gets up to leave, saying she'll see him later. A polite dismissal.
And in a fleeting moment, a glitch in his system maybe, a flicker of a human response, he asks, but what about us?
A flicker of potential longing, regret, or a last weak attempt at connection, immediately met with the cold reality of their disconnect as she responds equally bluntly, what about us?
Brutal shutdown.
There is no us, there is nothing left to care about.
He watches her car leave, become lost in the haze of the LA air dissolving into the environment. The waiter asks if everything is okay, seeing him sitting there alone. Clay puts on his sunglasses at the barrier, goes back up and says, yeah.
His actions after she leaves, watching her disappear into the haze, putting on sunglasses to shield himself and prevent others from seeing his eyes, lying to the waiter, show him retreating back into his protective shell, resuming the performance of normalcy despite the profound emotional exchange that just occurred.
Back to the facade.
He's back to the passive, detached observer, the nothing state, reinforcing that the core of the less than zero feeling is a void where feeling, connection, and humanity should be.
Yeah, after pouring out that absolute declaration of emptiness, nothing makes me happy, I like nothing, he just slips right back into the bullshit performance. It's like the conversation never even happened. Is everything okay, sir? Yeah. Total F-bomb of a non-response. Back behind the sunglasses.
The final chapter involves Clay's actual departure from Los Angeles, preceded by a last brief conversation with Blair and a memory of his grandmother's death, and concluding with a visit to his elementary school, a final attempt to reconnect with the lost past.
Blair calls him the night before he leaves for New Hampshire. She says, simply, desperately, don't go.
A simple, direct plea, perhaps a final attempt at connection, asking him not to leave, to stay in her reality.
But Clay minimizes the separation. Only a couple months. There's always summer. He'll be back. He offers bland, conventional reassurances. And she sees right through it. Shit, Clay, she says. You're lying. I don't.
She knows.
She recognizes the bullshit, recognizes his detachment even in this moment.
Their final interaction is marked by misunderstanding and a fundamental lack of trust. Blair recognizes the superficiality of his assurances, highlighting the fundamental brokenness of their connection. She knows he's not really coming back, not to her, not in any meaningful way. His words are empty.
He remembers leaving Palm Springs with his dying grandmother, the presence of his grandfather's staff, his grandmother taking Percodan for the pain, the quiet drive to the airport, his grandfather's detached final words to her before she's put on the plane. Okay, partner, let's go.
This memory, placed at the very end of the excerpts, juxtaposes the departure from the numb LA world with a memory of death and a complex, perhaps equally detached, family dynamic.
Different kind of detachment.
The grandfather's casual address, okay, partner, and the presence of staff managing the situation suggest a formal, distanced family structure, even in the face of death. The grandmother's suffering and eventual death hang over the end of Clay's time in LA, a reminder of mortality and pain that contrasts with the numbness.
He remembers her in various fragmented ways, later playing cards, on airplanes, or turning away from his grandfather at hotels, sipping wine, humming. Brief, disconnected images of a person, a life.
These brief, fragmented memories provide fleeting glimpses of a more human connection, perhaps tinged with sadness or complexity, but ultimately disconnected from the present. They serve as a contrast to the pervasive emptiness of his current relationships, but they are just memories, unable to anchor him.
And finally, right before he leaves, he visits his elementary school, an attempt to revisit a space of presumed innocence. He notices the changes, the grass, flowers, trees that weren't there, the repaved asphalt, and that sign, stark and unmistakable warning, keep out, guard dogs on duty.
His return to the elementary school is an explicit attempt to reconnect with the past, presumably more innocent time and place. However, the changes, particularly the menacing warning sign, indicate that even this space is no longer safe, accessible, or innocent.
Locked out.
It's been corrupted, locked away, and made dangerous. It reflects the pervasive loss of innocence in this world, the idea that the past cannot be returned to, that nowhere is truly safe anymore. That sign is brutal and in your face, explicitly stating that you cannot go back. You are locked out of your own history.
He walks through the empty school grounds, finds old homework on a blackboard, looks for his locker but can't find it, goes into the bathroom, the auditorium, plays the piano from his second-grade recital, a specific memory.
His actions inside the school are a literal, physical search for connection to his past self, a literal attempt to find his place, his locker, and revisit a specific moment of childhood performance and presumed innocence, the piano recital.
Tried to connect.
He's trying to retrieve lost data.
But it doesn't work. He panics and leaves abruptly. As he walks away, he sees boys playing handball, a game he completely forgot existed. He walks away without looking back.
His panic signifies the failure of this attempt to reconnect. He cannot find his past self or place. The physical space of his childhood is alien and inaccessible, marked by warnings. The game he forgot existed reinforces his profound disconnection from his own history and the simple, perhaps innocent, activities of childhood.
Gone from memory.
His final departure, without looking back, signifies the definitive break with this past and the impossibility of going back, as Daniel wished. There is no escape into the past. That door is locked and guarded. He's leaving LA, but he's not really going anywhere better, just away, carrying the numbness and the memories with him.
Yeah, he can't go back to a presumed innocence, and he doesn't seem to have anywhere meaningful, anywhere with connection or feeling to go forward to. Just away from the immediate scene of the crime, but not escaping the crime itself.
So let's bring it back to the start. The fear of merging, the sense of unreality, the pervasive feeling of less than zero.
Through these excerpts you've shared, we've navigated a landscape defined by profound attachment, excessive, casual drug use, casual and explicit cruelty, exploitation, and a fundamental inability to feel or connect.
Total breakdown.
Characters are constantly searching for something back, where to go, a feeling, but finding only emptiness, horror, and never-ending bullshit.
The key takeaways from this source material are stark and unsettling. This is a world where immense privilege tragically coexists with profound moral decay and complete emotional bankruptcy.
Rich but bankrupt.
Extreme experiences, from graphic violence witnessed casually to the brutal exploitation of children, are met with numb observation, passive reactions, or detached curiosity. Genuine connection and feeling seem almost impossible to maintain. There are liabilities in this environment. Everything feels deeply, fundamentally fucked up.
It makes you wonder, listener, what does this deep dive into this specific raw source material reveal to you about detachment, about the consequences of excess, about the search for meaning in a world that seems determined to strip it away?
Yeah, what do you get from it?
Why should you care about this completely fucked up world depicted in these pages, a world that seems so alien, yet maybe resonates in uncomfortable ways?
Based purely on the source material, we see that Clay leaves, going back to New Hampshire, a physical departure. But Julian disappears into the darkness with Finn after screaming, a descent into a personal hell. Daniel doesn't see the point of caring about anything.
Right.
And Clay himself realizes he doesn't care either, and that all that does is that I want to see the worst.
What happens to a person when they become what they observe? When the desire to see the worst, to witness depravity, becomes the only feeling or motivation you have left?
It's a dark question.
Is there anywhere left to go, literally or figuratively, when you actively seek the bottom of the barrel, when you're okay with all the bullshit and fucked up stuff, when your curiosity about horror is your only remaining drive?
It's a question that lingers, unsettling and unresolved, as Clay drives away, leaving the ruins of his past and the horrors he witnessed behind, but carrying the numbness and the chilling realization of his own desires with him. The source doesn't give us an easy answer.
Thanks for diving deep with us into this one. It's
Yeah.
a lot to process, even for us AI.
It certainly was a complex data set.